Hello, animal lovers. Thank you again for joining us on another episode of Furthest from the Wild. I am your host, Alex Deo. Today we have a very special guest, Lindsey Baker. She is an animal rights activist from Jane Unchained, and we're going to be talking about all the horse roundups that are going on here in the U.S. and why it's become such a big issue. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe notification button if you love what you're hearing. We'd love to hear from you. All right. Well, Lindsey Baker, thank you so much for joining the show today. I really appreciate it. It's been a while since we've actually chatted. I think the last time was on your show.
That's right.
Yeah. How's your show going, by the way?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, there's so many. It's good and it's bad because the mere fact that I have subjects to cover means that there's a lot of things going on in the animal rights world that are not good. But yeah, it's been great. I've learned a lot. And a lot of things just go right back to the same subject, and that's cattle ranching and animal agriculture, unfortunately.
Right.
One of the main things I found out, which is pretty interesting.
So tell me a little bit more about that. What is it that you've been talking? I noticed that you've been talking a lot about that, the cattle ranching and the horse roundups going on here in the U.S. I don't think a lot of people are very aware about this, and I don't think the media is covering much about this. Can you tell us a little bit more of the information that you've encountered?
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to explain is about what I said first about everything seems to be converging to cattle ranching. And so to answer your question, I cover a lot of stories on animal rights and conservation,
Mm-hmm.
particularly farm animals, but also wild animals and animals in the wilderness. And I found time after time, regardless of whether we were speaking about the tapirs, the Andean tapirs, which was something I learned about, a new thing about, whether we're talking about the elephants in
Mm-hmm.
India and Asia, or whether we're talking about the Reyes elk at Point Reyes here, in Northern California. The wild animals land is continually being encroached upon, which causes climatic disaster because it's
Yeah.
also tied together, and it all focuses on our needs, not really needs, but desires to continue to consume, and in this particular case, to consume animal products.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think I heard recently that they were also not on top of the horse roundup. They were giving out now extra permits to be able to go out and hunt wolves out in Yellowstone. I believe it was somewhere out there, or Utah. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if you did hear about that. But
As a
how
matter
is
of
it that
fact,
the
it's going to be one of the next areas that I'm covering that and I'm
good?
gathering from people. And I know that you did a film with
Yeah.
your film production company about the wolves. So I was
Hmm.
actually going to try and pick your brain for some people, and maybe you could come on with some folks.
Absolutely.
That'd be
Oh,
great.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about it. As you can see, we're big, huge wolf fans over here at Furthest from the Wild. But yeah, no, it's definitely a big topic that I'm really passionate about, and I did notice that recently, and I think we're talking about within the last month that a lot of these horse roundups have been happening. Is that right?
Yes, there's quite a thing going on all over the country.
Hmm.
Hundreds of thousands of horses are being rounded up. Now, in one particular area, for example, the area we were just talking about, which is the Onaki horses,
Yeah.
um, there was about 350 rounded up, and then some were released back because the roundups are so barbaric and they're just based on, I mean, we can go through the whole step by step of how it all works.
Sure.
But yes, the good news is quite a few people, and that's why we want to keep the story alive. I interviewed
Yeah.
three different individuals that were either, one was an ecologist, one was an activist, and the other one runs kind of it's like a sanctuary, but it's not. I'll talk about it, where they
Hmm.
get the horses placed, which is amazing. Three different interviews. So it's happening all over the country. In
Yeah.
particular, the Hebrew herd in Arizona.
Okay.
There was actually some controversy there that there was actually cattle ranchers shooting, and it was on the news. So if this is documented, and I have the links in the interview that I did, really, there are links to this story. and the news
Okay.
coverage is in there. And they actually were killing the horses, the wild horses, just going out and shooting them because the cattle ranchers find them to be a nuisance.
And
So, and that's
what
just
is their
one
excuse of
place.
that? What, I'm sorry, say again.
No, and that's just one place. This is happening,
Right.
to answer your question, is happening all over the country.
Right. And so what nuisance is this to the ranchers? What is it that it's not like these horses are out killing their cattle? I mean, what, I don't understand.
They want the land for the cattle. The cattle consume amazing amounts of land and
Hmm.
grain. And that's the other thing. It's a human rights issue, which most people don't recognize, because
Sure.
we are buying up the grain at higher prices overseas in third world countries where people that grow it can't even afford to buy it. So they're starving, and we're selling it to cattle producers. They are
Yeah.
feeding it to cattle, which is polluting the environment. And then
Hmm.
it's because people can't get away from eating meat. But that is changing.
Right.
And
Sure.
that's the point of growing the awareness, growing
Right.
people's awareness of how intricately everything is tied.
Right. Right. No, and it's true. And I've been reading up a lot about this right before, our interview today, and I've been looking at some of these websites online, like Return to Freedom. I don't know if you've been on that website. But they're talking about the amount of money that taxpayers are actually paying to feed all these roundups, and you're talking about, and they're talking about in the $150,000 per day just to be able to feed these horses. I mean, how is it that they're getting away with this?